In the last video, I reviewed Rallycross on the original PlayStation, one of the most underrated racing game that no one talks about, and it's a shame as it was a pretty decent racer that I enjoy since my childhood. So today we will continue with the Rallycross series with a review on the sequel, Rallycross 2. Enjoy! Rallycross 2 was released on October 31st, 1998 on the original PlayStation. Studio 989, a division from Sony Computer Entertainment America who worked on the first game. This time though, they were the one that published the game, and instead, the game was developed by Idle Minds, the company that would went on to release HD collection of Ratchet & Clank on PlayStation 3 and eventually rebranding as a company that you and I definitely recognize nowadays. I was excited to check this game out, but when I actually play it, I hate it. But before that, let's reverse the car back to the starting line and start off with the positive. First up, they never changed the controls, which is pretty good. All of the basics that are there works well. The rocking mechanic got an upgrade where you can get back on the wheels much easily compared to the first game. Unfortunately, they removed the gear shifting mechanic, so no more switching gears to reverse or neutral state. Oh well, I guess people hated that mechanic. They made the main menu look better. If you remember in the first game, the menu looks bland as there is no music, uninteresting UI, and boring background that greets you. Same cannot be said for the sequel though, as the moment the menu comes out, you can hear music start playing, and also most icons are redesigned for the better. I don't feel bored looking at the menu unlike the lazy presentation from the first one, so that's a plus for me. As for the graphics, it also got some tweaking, where it looks much cleaner and somewhat better compared to the first one. Nothing groundbreaking, just a little improvement. Once again, there's no frame drop as the game runs smoothly. Even with different weather conditions, it still doesn't affect the graphics in the slightest. They are occasionally pop in here and there, but not enough to ruin the experience. Moving on to the cars. The variety classes of cars also make a return. Just like in the first game, they are based on real life versions like the Subaru, Mitsubishi Lancer, the Beamer, Toyota Corolla, just to name a few. Some have better speed, some have better handling, vice versa. To make it better, you can also tune your car to your liking, setting brake bias, suspension, or gear ratio, etc. based on your preferences, all of which can affect the car behavior. As usual, crashing will damage the look of the car, but never affect the performance. Depending on which part that you crash, that's where the damage will take place. Exclusive to the game is the addition of Track Editor, where you can create your own track and let your imagination run wild. Here is an example where I create a middle finger for the haters out there. But unfortunately, due to console limitation, I couldn't make the good use of it. But regardless, still a fun thing to do when you're bored, which you'll be feeling in this game. And that's it. Those are the positive. I try, that's it. Let's mention the elephant in the room, the controls. They somehow screw it up. In the first one, the control is close to perfection, even if it still got some issues, but not enough to ruin the experience. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Simple as that. Something that they seem to change in the sequel and ends up making it even worse. The controls felt way too sensitive, as if the cars are on ice physics. Even the slightest touch on the D-pad will make the car respond sporadically to the current direction to the point it feels like you will start drifting and spinning. You would think in a game that requires lots of turning, the control would be better. Spoiler, it isn't. That's the main problem with this game. I cannot seem to able to control my car, especially at tight turns where I always seem to oversteer regardless of how long I hold onto the D-pad. Even on straight line, I'm not safe as the sensitive steering can cause you to be on the verge of spinning should you touch the steering wheel accidentally, which can cause you to crash into everything and thus losing the race. The tuning, as good as it sounds, doesn't change how the car behaves, especially for the control. It still remains the same no matter how many tweaking you make. So, is there any way to solve this problem? Technically, yes. It turns out that you can literally make it through each turns without even touching the brake. By letting go the gas, your car can enter a drifting mode where you can try to drift around the specific corner, making the brake and handbrake become pointless. That's how you will be progressing through the game. That's it. Unfortunately, the twitchy nature of the handling will frustrate lots of players, and I don't blame you for rage quitting. Even after so many years, the controls still felt odd to me. Especially coming right from the first game all to the second one, you can tell the difference is night and day. Even worse, this is something that the AI have no problem dealing with. They seem to be able to maneuver through sections easily. Sure, most of the time you will see them crash randomly, but other than that, they never messed up regardless of which difficulties. All the corners are able to be negotiated pretty easily and no mistake at all. While we're at it, let's mention the physics, which are very strange. The car feels very floaty, that you start wondering if there are any weight in the car. When you hit the wall or any of the bumps, your car will be sent flying up in the air before rolling over a couple times. I'm serious, even the smallest bump can be a danger. It's like my car is just completely fragile towards anything, and I could not able to control it at all. Not just that, when you race with the AI, forget about hitting them off the road like what you can do in the first game, because they're basically bricks, as whatever you try to do, you can never seem to affect their speed. You can try to block them, you can try to nudge them, you can try to just shunt them. Nothing seems to change on the AI. However, if they were to hit you back, you will watch as the car got tossed around all over the place like a bumper car. Excuse me? Why? This is straight up unfair. I feel like the cards are stacked against me, and the game actively doesn't want me to win. Like, look at this. They're literally hitting me everywhere, and I am powerless to do anything to fight them back. Oh my gosh. Anyway, those are the control and physics problems. Moving on to soundtrack. With the exception of the main menu, the soundtrack for the most part are pretty lackluster. What makes the music in the first game sound so good is due to the fact that each pieces of tunes correspond to the track theme, which makes the soundtrack very diverse and sound so differently. But I could not say that for this one. As much as I love me some rock and roll jam, it got old pretty quick as all of them just sounded the same. There is no huge difference between each of them, which brings me to the next problem. Next problem is the inconsistency of the tracks. What I meant was some tracks are pretty short while the others can be too long, and I understand that some people love longer tracks for better experience, but when you add that with the awful controls, you will wish the race ended earlier. Tracks like Construction Yard and Switch Yard remains faithful by being short like the first game, but then comes tracks like Black Forest, Dry Valley, Rocky Pass, and County Air, which are way too long. I understand that there's one track in the first one which is pretty long, but putting 4 of them pretty much overstays their welcome. I'm okay with long tracks, but remember the first problem? That's right. Not only you have to deal with the slippery controls, you also have to get used to it for 5 laps straight while trying to win the race. Like, oh my god. Talking about suffering. What makes the first game so good is the amount of fun you can have in the short tracks. It may be over under 3 to 4 minutes, but you always want to give it another try. But they went the opposite with this one. Long tracks along with controls that didn't age well killed the fun for everyone. Don't forget, each lap lasts around 1 minute long, and imagine how much time you will be losing for every attempt you try. Imagine yourself having the best race of your life, and then on the final lap, your controller acts up and you spun into the wall and you end up losing the race. That's 5 minutes of racing that you can never get back. To top it all off, since there's no restart option in season mode, you have to quit the race, back to the main menu, load the save file, and then wait for the race to load up, which becomes tedious. Oh yeah, the aforementioned soundtrack adds salt to the wound. The unmemorable soundtrack, along with the long circuit accompanied by sloppy controls, are the reason why I never able to finish Veteran and Pro season. I got so bored and frustrated that I start questioning my sanity. It feels like a chore rather than having fun, which was the main reason game was supposed to do. Have fun. Good news is that the developer are nice enough to add some code that lets you unlock everything, including cars and tracks. There's also some bonus tracks, 2 of them being the classic one from the first game. However, the poor controls pretty much hinders you from having any fun. You can obviously see the controls doesn't work anyway in this game. If you still somehow finish the game, well, congrats to you. Hope you didn't destroy anything on the way to success. In the end, Rallycross 2 is just an absolute mess. There are some positive aspects that I think fits well. However, it was tainted by the negative factors that single-handedly ruined the enjoyment of this game. I wonder if they are rushing to meet the deadline and couldn't fix the control to be better. Whatever it is, it's safe to say the project was not successful, as the game never got released anywhere else outside of the original version. So you would have to spend quite a lot for this quote-unquote gem. There are some fun to be had, but don't expect much of it. I guess that's what happened when you had high expectation over something, especially with the nostalgia that is the first game. Overall, Rallycross is still a great series despite having 2 games being released, with one of them being disappointing. Don't let that scare you away though. There are a lot more fun in the first game. It's just that people never talk about them. That's why I took it upon myself to review this game. Studio 989 would then shut down its door not long after, while Idle Minds continued to do their own things before doing even bigger projects 2 decades later. I can't believe that company actually came from that era. To think they survived this long is pretty fascinating. Guess the world is pretty small, don't you think? So yeah, that is my review on Rallycross 2. Let me know below what you think about this game. Have you played it? Tell me below. And if you enjoy what you see, hey, consider subscribing, and also don't forget to like and share so that more people know about my channel. Don't forget to join my Discord because that's where you can hear anything from me. Anyway, thanks for watching. Next time we're gonna head back to Missing Archive. See you guys later.